So welcome. I want to say Happy Black History Month, and I'm going to share um, just a point of transparency that that I have a tendency to take these kinds of moments, these kind of identity marker commemorative months for granted over the years most, and I feel like that may be something that folks who, especially people, African Americans, Black folks, may have done in the past. It's kind of, it's February, it's Black History Month. I admit that I somehow take it for granted, but it seems like that we're in a time where it feels even more important to not take these moments, these commemorative moments where we're able to celebrate each other and the accomplishments of ourselves and our people for granted. So I just want to acknowledge that and say Happy Black History Month. We're so grateful to have the Jamersons with us on the tail end of Black History Month. So we called y'all just in time, just in time. And we want to invite you into a series that we are calling Breaking Bread. And we just want to eat together. Hopefully you got lunch and you nibbling on a little something and just share the experiences of people that we've come to know at Farm Aid and that we've come to just really respect and appreciate. One thing that I asked the Jamersons to do before they came on was to share one song, which I'm sure there are multiple, but to share one song each that they find inspirational. And so what you were hearing, maybe over me, maybe not, was two were the songs that they selected. One was Three Little Birds by Bob Marley, which Miss Denise shared, and All My Life, the clean version that DeAnthony shared. So through that, we'll be creating a playlist and have a shared playlist to share as we continue to build over the series, over the course of the series. And folks may ask, okay, so you said series, how often are we going to have these? And so in true country fashion, I'm going to say every once in a while, near about the end of the month, around 12 or 1 o'clock. So that's rule speak. So we want to make sure, and we'll make sure that you get updated as we continue to share this series. So I'm very grateful to have you with us. We initially thought about calling this a popular education series, and folks were like, I don't really understand what popular education means. So, in the spirit of popular education, let's educate one another on what that language means. Um, and it comes from a community organizing experience. Um, and I screen grabbed this image from an organization that is known for one community building skills of community organizers and also really having a very strong popular education program, and that is the Highlander Center. And basically, popular education is just simply educating each other based on our lived experiences and really leaning into what we know to be true. We can be experts in our own realities. And so that is the invitation here. And as much as fact is questioned these days, there are things that we absolutely know to be true, and that is rooted in our lived experience and our shared stories. So for that reason, and so many others, I'm very honored to invite the Jamersons here today. I won't talk y'all to death, but this is their bio, and I'll share these slides with y'all too, so you can really dig in to their stories and their backgrounds. But I always think it's best to hear straight from the source. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can see their lovely faces, Miss Denise and her fabulous son, who we met at Farm Aid in Indiana a couple years ago. Feels like I've known y'all for a really long time. So thank y'all for joining us. And
Thank you.
the floor is yours. Feel free to share your story.
Thank you for having us. Yeah, I thought you was gonna have some questions for us.
I would okay, I'm happy to do that. We could spark it like that. Can y'all hear Miss Denise okay? Is it just me? If you could just reply in the chat or okay, perfect. So maybe
Okay.
I'll turn mine up. So great. So tell us your story. Tell us how you and your family got here. You know, I see in your bio that you're multi-generation farmers. So just if you would just share your origin story a little bit and root us in where y'all come from.
Okay, I can do that. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining to hear our story. We're very humbled and excited to do this on Black History Month with Farm Aid and for Farm Aid. So thank you for the opportunity to share our story. My family is, we live here in Southern Indiana. This place called Lyles Station, Indiana. It is the last remaining African American settlement in Indiana. My family the Greer family have been farming land on in this place since before pre-Civil War, since 1855, and we've been farming, which my father is recognized in the Smithsonian along with Lyles Station as one of the last remaining African American farmers that's still farming land that's been in our family pre-Civil War. So I still reside in Lyles Station. My dad is still farming here in Lyles Station. He's 87 years old, and he's doing what he does. And so we've been farming for a long time. When they first started, of course, it was homesteading. And Lyles Station is a community, and in the community of Lyles Station that was settled here, it was a community of free slaves. And it grew to the point of where it was a full community with the grocery store. We had the first Black postmaster north of the Mason-Dixon line. We had people that worked in the White House under 4 administrations as a chief butler. So the people here in Lyles Station, we created our own school, which we have because there were several settlements in this area. So about 7 settlements consolidated and created a school for our children. And we have recently restored that school as a museum here in Lyles Station so that we can continue to tell the stories that have been told to us over the years of farming and sustainability, and how education and self-preference is the key to life. Living in this community, I grew up here all of my life. We had a full-fledged farm all of my life. The church, living in this community, it has taught how to live in community and in unity with each other. So I think I'll pause right there and kind of let DeAnthony tell a little bit about how we got to being Legacy Taste of the Garden out of the legacy of my family and my uncles and my dad, and how we plan to keep it going through the next generations. You gotta mute yourself.
Yeah.
We're getting a little echo. Try that again. I lost you. I don't know if other people have. You're muted, DeAnthony.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you guys hear me now?
That's it. That's great. Yep.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, just to kind of piggyback on, what my mother was saying, I was fortunate enough to grow up here in Lyles Station and still be able to, see that spirit and presence of, the old Lyles Station that was what was, back in the early 1900s, and, what my grandfather and what they grew up in. I was truly blessed to be able to still see, a remnant of that and be able to grow up in that. And as a youngster, I didn't really recognize the significance, but we were very much ingrained just with all the things that were happening in Lyles Station. And fast forward into my adult life, I was just trying to figure out, where I wanted to guide myself as far as becoming a young man and wanting to provide for myself. And one of the things that kind of just resonated with me was to do what my family has been doing all along, and that's, working the land and, looking to provide more of a self-sustaining lifestyle for myself. And alongside with my grandfather being honored by the Smithsonian, it kind of just lit up a light bulb in my head, like this is what I need to kind of be gearing myself to do. So in 2016, that's when we started Legacy Taste of the Garden. And it was just off an idea of doing what I grew up doing and growing a garden in my backyard. And we had the idea of taking that and helping underserved communities that didn't have access to healthy foods and things like that. So that's kind of how we got our first started and where we're at today. Yeah.
Cool. They're saying that they can only see Miss Denise and not DeAnthony, so I don't know what the issue is there. But as long as y'all can hear him okay, I can tell you he just looks all right. No, he looks great. But DeAnthony, I really want to ask you, because I don't want to ask you how old you are, but just thinking about, because I think we kind of share somewhat of a similar trait where we were born and raised in farming communities. And maybe it meant different things to different people because my family didn't necessarily own the land, but I guess, Arlene, I guess we could say we're my mama and my aunt who's on this, so I'm referencing her, they were a different generation, but that we kind of took on some of the labor of them working on the farms of other people in the summertime. So I'm just wondering for you, DeAnthony, what were some of the lessons that you learned and what, especially now, what is the message that you share with other young folks, either your generation or even younger, about why it's important to maintain that relationship with the land and especially as a Black farmer with your family land?
Right. So I would say I learned plenty of lessons on my way and in my journey, and I will say I had a lot of help just with a lot of my relatives that were older that have been in this space for a long time. So they definitely taught me a lot of lessons. But I would say some of the main lessons that resonated with me the most is just how important land ownership is and how you can, in a sense, provide for yourself and control your own destiny just off of land ownership. So that's probably one of the most resonating things that I've picked up along my journey. And even my grandfather, he is quoted in that Smithsonian in DC saying that the land is everything. And I think that was one of the main things that just stuck out to me the most during that time, or that still sticks out to me. And one of the things that me working with younger generations and also just people that are in this space that are looking to, be growers, producers, farmers, things, etc. That's one of the main things I try to share is just self sustainability and being able to pull yourself up in a sense by your own bootstraps, provide for yourself in a certain way. That's power in so many ways, and it's uplifting. Is unbreaking power. That's how I can explain it. So that's
Um,
how I would answer that there.
that's the quote of the day, DeAnthony. Unbreaking power. I'm literally writing that down. Um, when I provide the summary of this and share back with folks, I feel like that's going to be the heading, unbreaking power. Because you brought up something about pulling yourselves up by the bootstraps, and at the same time, that there are things that especially people of color, Black farmers specifically, have gone through that are a result of innate inequities that are embedded within systems. So people's boots look different. Some people got different straps on their boots. You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? So I want you to talk because that's kind of a lot of at least what I've learned about some of your relationship to your work, Miss Denise, is how
Mhm.
you talk about those inequities and how you talk about the struggle for maintaining family land and trying to correct or at least make up ground for some of those past harms that have been done specifically to Black farmers in the past. So, how do y'all communicate that kind of that balance of, the hard work ethic that you've obviously instilled in DeAnthony? And I'm pretty sure you got it from your daddy. Uh, how do you maintain or speak about that balance of what is owed to us, especially as African Americans in this country, at the same time while instilling a work ethic to have a really strong relationship to the land where then you can sustain what you've earned?
Um, I think that just being able to see Black farmers in itself is resilient.
That we exist.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and regardless to everything that they've been through, that's one thing that's been resonating with me in this climate that we're in today, is that we wasn't afforded certain things through programs, but we're still here. And that's called resilience. So we can't stop what we're doing because of what we don't have. We have to continue to do what we're doing so that we can continue to be in the fight for our life and for our people's life, because, I don't know if people know, but the Black farmers are who helped the people in the movement in the 60s. They're the ones who helped them bail them out. They fed them. I mean, when we talk about stuff, we talk about it, but we don't really think about the lives of the people that were really in these movements. But when you think of the Black farmer, the Black farmers are the leaders. And that's why it's so important for people to understand coming back to the land. If we get help, that's great. That's wonderful. And like you said, it is a thin line, because I don't want to lead anybody to the point to where they do end up like some of the farmers did. I mean, when I grew up, there were a lot of Black farmers around me. And I have watched them be totally taken away from the families. And then I've watched my dad have to be resilient and continue to do what he has been called to do, because it's a calling. So it's just like with DeAnthony, when you're called to do something and you're called to feed the world, you're called to feed the people, you have to follow that calling and walk with your faith. That's why, where it says the faith of a mustard seed. And that's what that's what farmers in general have. We can't stop because there's a freeze. We got to keep moving. We don't stop because there's a drought. We keep moving. We keep finding ways. So, there's, like you said, it's a balance, but it's a calling, and knowing that you're doing what is needed to be done.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. And there's consequence when you don't heed that call,
yeah, yeah,
when you
yeah,
ignore that call. I
yeah.
want to invite people to put questions in the chat if they like, as we're continuing this conversation, because I want to make sure that we can ask any questions that y'all have too. I don't know that I can unmute, you can unmute or not. I'm I'm not a tech person. I'm a playlist person. But I do want to just kind of sit with something you said, Miss Denise. When you think about, because we think about movement leaders, the people who are front and center, you referenced the civil rights movement, for example, and people who are front and center, those faces and names that we obviously know, but then those who played these kind of supportive roles, these background roles. But if folks really sit with what you just shared, that the movement had to be fed, that's what sustainability is. How do we sustain each other? Um, so to really think about the role of farmers and cooks, those behind the scenes of movements who literally kept the movement leaders alive and sustained and fueled, it really does magnify, at least in my mind. It was a little bit of a light bulb, I'll be honest. It's the thing we take for granted. It's the thing we don't think about, that farmers have played such a critical, and because it's Black History Month, because we're centering y'all, specifically Black farmers have played a huge role in just these behind the scenes, um, but very necessary fights. And so talk about, because you talked about resilience. The good and bad thing about resilience is the expectation that you have to keep bouncing back, which can be exhausting, you know. Because you are resilient don't mean that you should be put in that position all the time to have to bounce back from jacked up circumstances over and over and over again. So talk about your family's sustainability, and you talked about faith, for example. So Farm Aid is about not just food and farms, but also culture, how we keep each other and hold each other together when times are difficult. So can you talk about those cultural connections that have sustained you and your family? And DeAnthony, I'm gonna chime into you as a different generation. What are those connections that keep you going?
It has, I have to say it's community, it's unity. I mean, and for the farmers, it's diversification. You have to be able to diversify. As dad always,
Say more about diversification and what you mean. Like break it
okay,
all the way apart.
okay. So as dad was, even when he grew up, everybody had a cow so that they could supply milk. Not everybody had chickens, but some people had hogs. But diversifying means everything that I have is not in row crops. I always say that my dad had two businesses. I didn't realize it until I left. The kids ran one at home and he was the one in the field, but we had cows, chickens, pigs, goats, and it was our job to make sure that those things were healthy, fed, and all of that, which it sustained us when there was a flood. We didn't have to worry about food. We had a garden, so we didn't have to worry about food when the crops didn't do well. Because hey, dad just got insurance. What, I don't even think it's been 10 years ago. So when he lost, he lost. So but you still had a community that was back with you and stood with you. And my mom was the center of the church that is also the center of our community, which we had a family, for instance, that their son on the farm got his foot cut off in a farm accident. So the farmers did fundraisers, selling food and cooking food to help that family. So it's all about the unity of the community, and although we aren't in that situation right now, if you support the Black farmers, if you support agriculture, you're in the agriculture community. It's just like when we come to the Farm Aid concert, it's just like, it's a wonderful thing because it's everybody with the same mind, the same heart, the same thought process, and it's a beautiful thing. Like you said, the diversification, the unity of a people that helped us to be resilient. If somebody's down, it's even back before when my dad was a kid, it's all about, you don't have this or your family got flooded out. Let us come together. Let us rally around you while you don't have.
Yeah.
Let us do what we can do so that we all can sustain.
That's
It's
right.
just like the postmaster. Our bridge went out and our farmers couldn't get things to the market. So he, back in the 1900s, took something to the Supreme Court of Indiana for the betterment of everybody in Lyles Station. Just like Lyles Station got its name because somebody donated their land to the railroad station so it could come through, which helped us to get everybody else, helped everybody to get their things out of the community. Mm-hmm. So it's a mindset of community and the better good for everybody.
Right on. I love that. You want to add anything to that, DeAnthony?
Just a little bit. She's on top of it. But no, just to piggyback, like she's saying, it's a spirit in Lyles Station that has been just passed around. It's not just about me; it's about we. And even from my personal journey of jumping into this agricultural space, like there's been plenty of older gentlemen that I'm outside in the field struggling by the sweat of my brow, and they'll stop over there and like, hey, you need some help, or they'll come offer some advice. Just them, riding around doing their daily runs, and knowing that I'm doing what I'm doing, and like lending that helping hand. Like, how often do you see like the older generation taking time out of their schedule to, because they, not that I asked, but they see that I need help. That meant a lot. That means a lot. And I only would like to continue that on, as I go as well. So
the definition to me of resilience is your community helping you be the best. That's right. To your being.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Get it. You keep saying unity. I keep thinking Queen Latifah. Told you I'm the playlist. I'm all about playlists. But would you say that you're in a rural community? Is that
Yes.
y'all call where you? Okay. So when you say that, well, one, I think about, how we formalize these systems, like through cooperatives, like you talking about helping your neighbor out, and so through farm cooperatives. Another is like through these mutual aid activities and coming together, ways to come together in that way. Um, are you, especially, given the current landscape for farmers, and I will say, and I don't know if you'll agree, when you think about the history of just this disparity and discrimination that Black farmers have experienced. And now we're seeing what is happening now on a larger scale that's affecting not just Black farmers, not just Indigenous farmers, not just, farm workers, but farmers in general. It kind of shows you how, um, trying to be maybe a little diplomatic, or maybe I even shouldn't try to be, but it just shows you how racism does not just affect the targeted group, it affects everybody. And so when you talk about that mutual aid and mutual respect and diversification, especially being in a rural place, you kind of don't have much of a choice except to find ways to build community so that you can work and get on, as my grandma or my family would say, one accord, to get on the same page, to understand that you're all in it for the same end, which is to feed our people and to make a living, a good, honest living. Do you think, how do you, I'm going to ask you first, DeAnthony, is that still, is that still the sense in rural places? And can you continue to tell that story to the next generation in a way that they find it believable?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I would just say from my experience alone, just in this community, in this rural community, all the farmers kind of help each other out. Like and what I do with the produce business, or just selling produce. When I don't have anything, I don't have a problem going to my next door neighbor farmer and getting what I need from them, and they're not going to hit me over the head with it as well. To because they know that we're on the same boat, and it might be him next week that needs something from me, so. Um, to answer that, I do think in these rural areas we do come together very well, especially in times of need. And for the future, like I said, I would only try to embody that myself continuously so that we can keep that type of spirit moving on. Yeah, real community. That's what that is.
Right on. Well, what's on your radar now? What are you checking for now? What are you, because we talked a lot about the past, creeped into the present, but how do we formulate a solid future, a sustainable future? So what are the things that we should be envisioning together as we think forward, knowing one, we have a diverse group of people on this call, who also have access to a diverse group of people. So that to me, when you think about community organizing, as we think, and we brought people in together under this umbrella of quote popular education, which is a community organizing tool. Another tool is to build our circle of influence. So because y'all are here today, you've touched me, which is why I know y'all and brought y'all here. And then we put this call out to people who know and love you, or maybe they just came because I asked them nicely. But either way, we're increasing our circle of influence. What should we be checking for? What's the wave of the community? Where should we all be headed together? And I don't know who wants to answer that first. It's a macro question.
I can take a early stab at it,
Go
and
for it.
I'll let her close this up. She's the heavy hitter there. But I would say for me, and I hear my grandpa in the back of my head a lot, but he always says, things are gonna go back to the old way of doing things before you see the next wave of things. And when I was younger, I'm thinking we're not about to go back to horse and buggy and no electricity. But when you chew the meat and spit out the bones of what he's saying we're going to have to go back to a more self-sustaining, providing for yourself type of lifestyle. And I think just even within communities, just within, wherever, people just got to become more of a producer of some sort for themselves. I'm not saying you have to produce everything. You don't have to go out there and get a farm with all the livestock and doing row crops and just going crazy with that. But if you can produce one thing for yourself or work more with people that that's producing things, knowing where your products and your necessities are coming from, I think that is my main focus for me right now is one, sharing myself up enough to be able to sustain myself in a way that I don't necessarily have to be dependent on things to provide for myself. And then at the same time, leaning in on my neighbor as well that has other products that I'm not necessarily providing for myself and, helping them build their market and grow as well. So that would be my thing is to build yourself and help your neighbor build themselves as well by supporting locally. Yeah.
Okay, so
Your turn.
back to unity. Like you said, this is farm. This isn't Black farm. This isn't white farm. This isn't indigenous. It's farm against no farm. Because the way that things are going now, we're going to have to depend on each other, support each other, and be able to figure it out. Again, with the diversification in Indiana, we have corn and soybeans. That may mean that you diversify and start doing vegetables because the way that the climate of agriculture is, it's not meant for you to be rich, without subsidies, without help. And it's been set up that way. So when you think about, okay, so when the trajectory starts to change, how is that change going to look? Okay, so we may have to go back to producing food. We may have to go back to producing other things than that more things that we eat than what we not eat. So that's a change for a lot of farmers. But a lot of farmers are coming to that crossroad on what are we going to do? But we've got to stay together. And as farmers, we got to keep doing what we do. Because as we've said, we're the backbone of the United States. And in order for us to feed everybody, we've got to stay together and support each other. And then my thing is we have to stand up for our life. Life is food. And let me say again, wealth is not money. Wealth is not money. Wealth is in your land, wealth is in your community, wealth is in your food. So, we have to stop looking to wealth as money, right? So, when I say stand up for your life, like Dee said, hey, you may not have no ground, but you can grow some herbs in a windowsill that can be life-saving for you. That's medicinal, sage or thyme or something just to add into your food. So, I like I said, it's not right now, it's just farming. It's not, it's the fight against corporate farming because they're putting the crunch on us to try to run us out of because even now, if you have 500, you even have 1,000 to 3,000 acres, you're considered small compared to the corporate, what they're trying to do. But we've got to stand and we've got to fight for our life. And our life is our food. The food that we eat and being able to supply the food. So my thing is support. If you can support the farmers, find your farmers wherever you're at, support them, then we can support you.
That's right.
Then you can put us in a place that we can continue to grow. We can continue to support. We can continue to, if we got to diversify, we can diversify.
That's it.
In order to supply more food to the people who are around us.
Right. And the narrative that is cheaper in the grocery stores, it's not even really true anymore.
No.
And it's about, not you say unity, but it's also about relationship. It's also about solidarity. Let's be who we say we are. Let's support each other on that very grassroots, I know you, you know me kind of level. And y'all know John Jamerson.
Yeah.
A question from John Jamerson. What do you what do you think up and coming farmers need in reference to learning or preserving from farmers of the past? So what is that if you could pick one this is a messed up question. I already know it is. One key point of knowledge to pass on, what would it be? Or maybe that was passed on to you each. So you, Miss Denise, from your father, and maybe you, Dee, from Miss Denise. So to see how that lineage works. And who is John Jamerson? Tell folks.
He's our fearless leader. He's my husband and
I
DeAnthony's
felt that was
dad.
like a planted question in there.
Yeah, it was. You know, for me, a lot of things I learned is through watching. It's not in words. It's not in words. It's the strength of being resilient by the people who are lifting you up and believing in you. So when you're called to do something, like my dad's been doing this for his life. He learned from the white farmers around here by working with the white farmers around here. So he couldn't do what he wanted. He couldn't do what he's doing if he didn't add to what was already in him. You see what I'm saying? So for me, it's not a word, it's an action. And like you said, that relationship with a farmer. Go find a farmer.
And
They're
like you
urban
said,
farmers.
that's wealth. That's rich. That's
Yeah,
richness. That's something you cannot put a price on. That is so valuable. That is a different idea of wealth. Not everybody gets access to that. So sorry to interrupt you, but keep going.
that's okay. That's okay. I mean, that's basically it. It's not, that connect with the connect because we're connected to the land. We're connected to our ancestors. Me walking on the land that they actually worked on is my inspiration. And watching Dad continue on with what he's been taught, and knowing that, look, every little thing's gonna be all right.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there. DeAnthony, you got one. What would it be?
For me, I think it would be just being the change you want to see. I would
That's
say
it.
um, just piggybacking off of her and my grandfather. That's what I saw from them. And the stories that I heard, they didn't stand around and let things happen,
Right.
or they didn't, hear about something and just turn away.
Hmm.
They heard that there was an issue, or they wanted to see change, and that's what they decided to be. So
That's it.
that's what I would. Yeah.
Man, okay, cool. So I wrote another one down, Miss Denise. Connect with the connection. So we got two going. So if anybody has I agree. Very inspirational. I'm gonna end this with one last question, and it's around the song that you chose because I'm gonna share this out. And so as people are listening to it, I want to ask you why you chose the song you chose. Um, and what visceral feeling you get when you hear the song so that when we do share this back out, I want people to have that heart connection to how you experience it because it is an offering that we're able to do. And I always like to end, and if you can think of anything, any kind of call to action that you kind of want to put out there for folks, like what's in our power to do if we don't want to just talk about it, we want to be about it. What would be that thing that you would invite people to do? So I'll start with you, DeAnthony, so your mama can have the last word.
Yeah.
So one, why'd you choose the song you do, and give people one call to action.
Okay. Reason why I chose the song, I think the words just in the chorus itself just kind of resonate with my everyday life. I know they say if you ain't got no haters, you ain't popping. No, I'm just playing. But I will say, like, just in my journey, there has been people, naysayers, things of that, and it's not even just in this agricultural space. I'm talking about all my life, like it says. And I will say that I can stand here probably and say that it never works out. I got, God on my side, and he always allows me to prevail. And that's what that song means to me, like just prevailing on the other side no matter what is thrown my way. So that's why I chose that song there. And in my call to action, I'm gonna keep it, the same, and just build yourself up, strengthen yourself up, look to be a provider for yourself, and from there you'll be able to help others by providing. And that's where I'm at with that.
Okay. So the one thing that I would say is, like I said, stand up, get up for your life. Okay. Support growers, producers, farmers, because we're coming to the point to where we're going to have to be that for us. We don't want I heard them on the news talking about eggs from Turkey. We don't need eggs from Turkey. Just one little thing, one time in the summer, go out of your way and find a farmer. And like you said, not only that, you'll learn that going and finding a farmer, you're going to connect with that farmer because we talk, we're friendly, we that's who we are. So support the farmers so that we can support you. And then my song is, three little birds and every little thing's going to be all right. Because for me, when I go step out and on my outside in the morning and I hear the birds and I'm looking at my plants growing, I just know that you just like the birds don't worry about anything each and every day. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Because every little thing will be all right. Regardless to what you go through. Every little thing's gonna be all right.
See, I told you. You need to have the last word. I do want to shout out the some of the resources that folks dropped in the chat. Kolu, thank you for that nugget. We're 1% of the 1%. Buy local. Local is global. So I will capture all of these nuggets. And so this has been recorded. I will share the recording, and I'll share the playlist, and I'll share the little slides I made. But mostly I want to just share my gratitude. I always get emo around y'all because you just remind me so much of you are my people. There's a reason you remind me of my people because you are my people. And I cannot express how much just being in relationship to y'all means to me as somebody who is on this grind on behalf of y'all and on behalf of each other. So I just want to extend our gratitude as being under attack for us isn't something new, but it does get exhausting. So I'm just so grateful that we can have this moment of joy to experience and share with one another. So y'all give the Jamersons some love, and we're gonna meet up in person at Farm Aid 2025.
Yes.
Oh, 40.
Ready.
We're 40 years old.
Oh yeah, we're ready. Yeah. Let me just add this too, Charlotte. Just on us going to DC with Farm Aid as advocates. I'm just going to say, I appreciate Farm Aid because the farmers' voices have to be heard. When we went this time, it's kind of iffy on, is it going to work? The climate. It's like, but once I went, it made me understand even more. Our voices have to be heard.
Absolutely.
They have to be heard.
Thank you for reminding me of that. Shout out to Hannah, colleague, coworker, for organizing that. And you're right. It seems like policy wins are limited or few and far between right now, but it don't mean that we don't stop fighting, we don't stop showing up. So that's another call to action. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
It ain't nothing but love. It ain't nothing but love.
Yes.
I so appreciate y'all. And thank y'all for the folks who joined us. We'll do it again. We'll do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, no.
Near about March.
I want to say real quick, thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Farm Aid, for this.
Right on, man.
We love y'all, man. Y'all are family to us forever.
Yes.
Forever. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can't with y'all. I'm ending this call right now. Much love. Thank y'all so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.